Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and you are all my co hosts for today, this Future Friday. So, what do we do on Future Friday? We get to talk about all things tabletop gaming, especially as it relates to science fiction from modern era all the way to the far future, and especially my own little thing I hold close to me, and that's being an armchair transhumanist. Why? Because I love the show The Expanse. I love the role playing game Eclipse Phase. I love the role playing game Altered Carbon, and they kind of fall into that transhumanist type of thinking. And current today, I love keeping up with science and things. So, and also there's been a recent release of the movie Mortal Kombat. So we're kind of going to combine all of those things together today. One thing I will say that to keep up with the real life science, before we get into our tabletop RPG conversation, is the two very important things happened recently in science. One of them is kind of like it's not really that dramatic, but it's the most important one. And the other one is extremely dramatic, but it's a small test for a bigger project. All right, so let's go with the most minor thing that's the most important. And that is today, right now on Mars, there is a machine that can create oxygen. And that is extremely important for having society, have human beings, biological beings move to Mars at any time in the future. There is a small device that was on the Perseverance, and they used it, and it converted carbon dioxide into oxygen. And that's what we really need, okay? But it's just a small box. It's not very flashy. But the other more flashy scientific thing that has happened right now is multiple flights by the Ingenuity. So there's the Perseverance, that's the Mars rover. It rolls around. There's the Ingenuity. It's got double propellers on it, and it is a small helicopter essentially with some sensors on it and a camera, and it is a proof of concept for possibly sending something else that's bigger, better, that can fly around, travel further on the surface of Mars. And the fact that they could prove that they could fly a helicopter or any kind of aerial vehicle within the atmosphere of Mars. So I think that's awesome. But what does that have to do with today's talk? Well, it's got a little tangential attachment to what we're talking about. So today, this week we've been talking about the release of the Mortal Kombat movie and Mortal Kombat as a concept in tabletop RPGs. And I think this actually fits really well into science fiction because you know as well as I do that blood sports and arena combat is never at a loss either in science fiction or tabletop gaming. It is a thing that is embraced, and even human society. We love ourselves the crucible of combat, and not even just combat, but I want to I want to take this idea and stretch it a little further, and the crucible of challenge and struggle and strife. And where do we sit as how can we use this idea as a society as we each generation we move further away from the things that make us struggle, while at the same time we value the people who are the best at overcoming struggles. And there's this weird, I have to give some examples here. Okay, so for example, we today can look back at our past and Cam's like cyborg pugilists, that and a whole lot more. Okay, so on one hand, and this was a real conversation I had many years ago about with some friends and family and such, and one of the people, this person is no longer a friend of mine at all, but was putting down the idea that one of my friend's dads was a plumber, and he wanted to become some kind of hedge fund manager or something like that, and was just like blue collar work is beneath humanity and people, and you have to move on and all this kind of stuff. It's the idea of like factory workers and construction workers and people that work with their hands, um, working themselves to the bone, working, menial jobs, long hours with very little reward at the end of it. And then at the exact same time, putting those individuals down, and then themselves saying that they're better because they're in like they've embraced the hustle, um this hustle mantra, like, oh yeah, I'm putting in 60, 70 hours work because I'm trying to hustle, I'm trying to make myself better, I'm moving numbers, I'm investing while you're asleep, I'm making the world move. And there's this like hustle culture involved in it. And every generation of our lives we've had that, where the people who are building and designing cars are leaving the people who had horses behind, and with the people who are living in the big cities are leaving farming behind, and things like that. But we can go even deeper, and maybe even a little bit controversial when it comes to struggle culture, and that is people who have suffered or are born with disabilities. And um, I don't know the proper terminology, so at me out there. But there are many people who we have a deaf culture, and those individuals want to maintain their culture, whereas others are looking for genetic reasons to not have anyone either born or have to suffer from being deaf or paralyzed or any number or hosts of things that we would consider to be disadvantageous. Yet at the same time, we put on a pedestal. There's a great video out there of a football coach, and he has no arms or legs. And his students are like, would die for this dude. And he's like a great motivator, and everyone's like, oh man, this is great. But that person wouldn't exist given technological advancements. Once technology gets to the point where not only is it practical to use, meaning you have an extremely low amount of issues, problems, side effects, but it also becomes cheaper. So but I say all this because as genetic modification gets better, as we start to expand our horizons, we start to look, humanity starts to look deeper into the oceans, out into the wider world. Our technology is making our lives a lot easier. Today, they are trying to eliminate an entire multi-billion-dollar sector of the US economy, and that are truck drivers, by making vehicles move, remotely. And if you could do that, trucks can drive further, longer. You don't have to pay them. They don't need rest. You don't need to pay out salaries. And all of those people will be out of work. Well, where do they go? What do they do? And we're while I don't want this to be a universal basic income conversation, there's still some I think there's still a part of us that holds on to our base nature, and we want to understand and believe that we are still give throw us back into the prehistoric era as cavemen, that we can still survive. And there are many people around the world who eschew all technology altogether. Strangely enough, there's YouTube channels dedicated to survival. There are television shows dedicated to prepping. There are all these things, and these people are purposefully going like, yeah, I can take a plane and get there, but I'm going to walk. Yeah, I can take a boat, but I'm going to swim. Sure, I can pull out a gun, but I'm going to learn how to fight. And at a certain point in our society, do you, will there be a time where technology makes all of this struggle economy, this struggle culture obsolete, or heck, illegal, unwanted, even hated at a certain point? Yeah. Now, Dead Man says remote operated trucks have been around since the 1990s. They have, but they're uh, not only does the technology have to be good, we have to embrace it. Not too many people see this. Okay, I'm gonna get squirrely on this one. Dead Man, because Dead Man brings up something, um, moral hazard, or I'll call it the trolley problem when it comes to technology, and that is, how do you program a remote vehicle to have a moral compass on it, and who decides that, and will society accept it? What I mean is, that remote truck driving down the street sees five people in a corner and a small child in the middle of the street. Is should the truck drive over the child because there are five people on waiting for a bus, or are we as a society willing to accept that the child should be saved and have the truck veer away from the child that ran into the street to get the ball to hit the people on the curb? That's a moral hazard question. That's a little nugget to let you guys think about that maybe another day. But it it makes you want to think about those things. And yeah, remote technology is actually better than human operated vehicles, but we just don't accept that as a culture. And it's kind of important as to, like, as technology gets better, we're starting to accept it completely, right? I mean, right now, you can't really apply for a job on in paper anymore. It's all electronic. At one point, you couldn't do that at all. I think in Japan, even now, they only accept handwritten resumes. But today, no, you get job interviews and everything on your phone, on your computer, and whatnot, because society has accepted it, even though it's been around, 20, 25 years prior to accepting it. Cameron says, I'd rather we not live like Spartans and toss out those those who aren't perfect. And that's where I really want to take this conversation about conflict and perfectionism and those kind of things, because in the eclipse phase world, in the first edition of it, in the setting, there was a faction known as the Ultimates. And to let you know, and this is a transhumanist world where our solar system, we as humanity is spread onto our solar system, similar to Altered Carbon, except only limited to our solar system. And it's kind of, well, there's Pandora gates. You go to other galaxies and things, but essentially, the society has dominated our own solar system before moving on, rather than just colonizing another planet by traveling there physically without using a gate, a wormhole. But the point being is that as humanity has moved out into our own solar system, we began creating factions, and one of those factions was the Ultimates. And the Ultimates are dedicated to transhuman perfection, and that perfection can be rated as physical perfection, psychological perfection, mental perfection, even social perfection. And well, of course, we can have the argument of, well, what does perfect mean, right? Is it perfect based on a particular body type or mentality? Is it learning particular skills? What our definition of what perfect is going to vacillate. But one of the ways they have decided to do this is through, well, challenges, combat even. Some of those challenges might be more economic and societal. Hey, if you're poor, maybe you don't belong in our society because you are demonstrating your ability not to survive using the rules that we have in our society. You're the lower caste in our system. And in many ways in modern society, we do that, right? We associate uh destitute and poor people as close to criminality and undesirables, untouchables, even, to a certain extent, no matter the reasons why. And as I mean, we've been doing that since the beginning of time. And one of the reasons probably is something very basic, and that's survival, right? And animals in the wild that are sick or slow or don't have capabilities that they're normally born with, a bird that can't fly, a fish that jumped out of the water, then their genetics, the other animals instinctively don't want their genetics into the genetic pool. They aren't a good match if you can't if you can't perform optimally. Now, the challenge could be that what if there is a faction of human beings, very human being very general, because they could be digital information, they could be genetically modified where they can't, they're so genetically modified they can't even breed with normal human beings, even thought wise, um, due to uh, long lifespans and uh, extrasensory implants and biological modifications. They may not even be view the world the way normal human beings would, but I'm going to call them humanity anyway. They may look at other have a belief that other people in our society are, well, they shouldn't be in our genetic pool. And like a meme becomes viral, they may want to eliminate ideas and thoughts and beliefs in our own society because it might pollute the societal genetics. It might pollute the what was it in Dianetics? They're called engrams. Pollute the thoughts that circulate, and that those thoughts, those non non-Nietzschean Ubermensch thoughts might be something they might want to eliminate because it's holding people back. Much like I'm going to like, oh, I want to fall in love because love transcends everything, and anybody be thinking like, no, it doesn't. It's just two people with two people at the lowest common denominator getting together. Great, you both have the same lowest standards. I'm glad for you guys that you both love each other, but we don't want you in our genetic pool. We don't want you in our thought pool because you're going to pollute the rest of us, and all the rest of us are going to do some crazy thing like, I don't know, get together because you just want the freedom to be with the one you love. you know, um, I'm being very sarcastic with that, but yes, um, at some point like Mortal Kombat, fighting somebody, in an open tournament or something like that to prove that you belong in society. Where does that fit in science fiction? And how interesting would it be to have these like high tech, zero gravity on different alien worlds or habitats, like a almost like a black market combat paragon conflicts kind of thing happening in the background, where civilized modern society is trying to stop this because these ideas are spreading amongst everyone else, that yeah, maybe we should eliminate the lowest common denominators. Maybe these people shouldn't be part of our society or have our resources or something. Many of us measure, unfortunately today, many of us are measuring our our successes by other people's failures, right? Hey, look at those people. They fail at this thing and we aren't doing it, therefore we're better than them. Other times we conflate two different things, right? Like we have military superiority over another culture, therefore our military superiority is better than their embrace of family and friendship and loyalty, right? Conflating two separate things. Military superiority doesn't necessarily mean you're a better culture. It just means you have better weapons to kill people. But there is that combination. Now, now, Cameron, I try to read. Oh, it did. It did. Oh, up here. So Cameron says, "There's this woodpecker who keeps slamming his face into a light casing to try and get laid. Yeah, it's loud, but when the ladies come around and see he's chilling on a light pole, they don't. They don't stick around." Um, I think you're making a reference of like, like, okay, sometimes both in nature and humanity there are a confluence of people acting and doing and being something that makes zero sense to the rest of us until that activity or that behavior or that skill or that that um that behavior becomes not just the norm but becomes the the accepted practice. So an example would be, what's something that's accepted now? Okay, tattoos. At tattoos, piercings, things like that. So I'm a man of a certain age when tattoos were considered taboo. Matter of fact, they were just pretty much considered counterculture, criminal. You if you showed a tattoo at any point for any reason, you were either you were either assumed to have been uh, will be, are, or assumed to have been a convicted felon. Okay. But there were also people who were considered counterculture. You weren't part of civilized society. You're a biker, you're a gang member, you don't belong with the rest of us. This is how we considered tattoos for generations. Okay. And then as a Western society, we came in contact with other cultures that, well, body modification and tattooing is just part of their society. So people like travelers, explorers, especially military, because military tends to have enormous thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of individuals traveling all at the same time. All of them came in contact with people from the Western world, from around the world, islanders and such, and they brought back that tattoo culture back to Western society, and then it started to become an accepted practice. If that's to the point where everything from tattoos and piercings and smoking weed and any number of other things. Gender stratification, racial biases, and things like that. We're starting to normalize all those things, get rid of them. But at a certain point, every time we get rid of one thing, we try to find almost like an animal instinct. We're trying to find other ways to elevate ourselves above others, to figure out where do we exist on the ladder. And maybe, just maybe, if I can defend these ultimates of sorts. Now, mind you, in the Eclipse phase, first edition, they were a player character choice. In the second edition, they are NPCs. They are so extreme in their philosophy that they are no longer they are eugenicists writ large. They believe in and accept the fact that the lowest members of their own ultimates are going to probably get cast out and get killed. They're going to be erased. They believe in this wholeheartedly. Now, today there are people who think they're ultimates, except they won't accept the fact that they are lesser than anybody. Right? People are always great to embrace a thing, but it's always NIMBY. It's always the not in my backyard philosophy. It's always this faceless other that are the lesser people. No one ever accepts the fact that they belong in the lesser group, or very rarely. Now, these ultimates are may have be able to touch upon that animal instinct in us that maybe we should embrace the idea of struggle, because, like, for example, in our capitalist society, we feel like if you can't work, if you don't work hard enough, you're a useless member of our society. But what is work except to achieve a goal? Well, what if those goals are already met in a transhumanist world where food, shelter, education, opportunities are just a click away? When you really don't need, we have machines to do everything. You don't need to work hard. Um, there's a fear in us. What was the movie? Wall-E? There's a fear in us as a society that when you don't, when you eliminate struggle, you eliminate advancement, you eliminate uh, evolution. And I think using the backdrop of a very simple thing like Mortal Kombat, where maybe society chooses a rather crucible of pain and suffering, of battle, to kind of weed out, like almost purposefully include in our own society this need to struggle to be better, to have a maybe almost like it sounds too militant, but almost like a samurai culture, maybe, to say, hey, listen, our society needs at least 10% of our people to push further, farther, faster, beyond, knowing that they might suffer or die or things, something like that. And anyway, what do you guys think? Anyway, Thomas Anderson, I know I'm 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 like zipping in and out of like tabletop gaming and then going to these large ideas and coming back. So I apologize for being meandering, but I didn't want to pre-think this. You know, you guys know it's all extemporaneous. I don't write any notes down, but I try to come up with an idea and I don't want to like preload what I'm thinking. So that's why I'm meandering. But that's why you guys are co-hosts. So Thomas Anderson says, kind of like thinking of cancer, that will happen to someone else, not me. Yep. And they don't take into account that others think the same thing. And one day they become somebody else's someone else. Yes, you were absolutely correct. Oh man, oh thanks, Cam. But no, I'll get to your comment in a minute. Yeah. Cam's like, yeah, a straight road is a boring road. DBJ, thank you very much. Yeah, I like to think that we are each giving us mental fuel to think about. So that's what it is. But going back to TA's comment about like thinking of cancer that will happen to someone else, that this comes up with a number of things. First of all, there is an idea that it's always somebody else. Hey, I'm fine. Those are those other people that it's happening to. The further we are physically and mentally and economically and emotionally away from people, it's always somebody else, right? But on the other hand, there's also this weird. It's not weird. There's a um suffering. I want to pedestal of suffering that happens because people who survive cancer are considered survivors, heroes, people who push through. I'm not putting down the effort. I agree with it. I'm just saying that if you eliminate cancer, we eliminate the struggle it takes to overcome it. Now, that also means that those people that suffer from it and die won't. Now, is one better than the other? I'm a person of like, hell, get rid of cancer. F that. I don't want anybody to suffer from it. But there's a small part of our population that's like, maybe we need to struggle a little bit. The reason, if you create, just bring up to 10 of your friends or family and ask them about universal basic income and say, guess what? We're going to pay everyone in the United States of from the age 18 and above $50,000 a year. Period. You do not have to work. We're going to give you $50,000 a year and see what kind of see what happens when you have a conversation like that. Start a conversation like that, and you'll be like, "You're a effing socialist pig, blah blah blah. You're trying to bring down society. They're just going to waste it, right?" I'm not saying that's not true. I'm saying like there's this like animal reaction if you were to say, "Hey, let's just pay people and then let people." If we take away the need to work, then what will people do? Yes, you're going to have a huge chunk of population wasted, but what about the people who won't? Maybe there's somebody out there who would rather not be working, but would rather be taking care of elderly people, right? Maybe there's someone else out there who's like, I want to be a school teacher, but I don't want to deal with the politics. All I want to do is teach kids. I'm a math teacher. I love math. I love science. All I want to do is teach kids for free. I just love teaching. I don't want to have to deal with the politics and the contract negotiations and the buying supplies and so maybe there are people out there like that. Maybe there are people who are like, you know what, I would rather join the military, but I don't want to have to deal with I want to serve because I want to voluntarily serve. And if you just pay me and pay my family, I'm cool with it. Right now, I can't do that. I've got to worry about my family and friends. But if they're cool, maybe I can go off and do something else, or find a cure for cancer because I don't have to worry about begging for money to study some rare disease or something, right? So there is a little bit of the UBI, the universal basic income, as part of this, but yeah. Um, Oops, sorry, I'm getting away from the chat, so I apologize for that. Now, Thomas Anderson, I think I clicked something off in your head there. I'm glad about that. Thomas Anderson says, "So have you talked about the utopia crisis of having some sort of need to exist? So they have to create crisis, yep, to have a personal purpose because everything is literally solved." You know what? That And that's what I'm getting, right? Like, I know we're talking about Mortal Kombat. I know that Mortal Kombat is kind of a silly thing concept, but creating a fake crisis, fake may not be it. There might be a real crisis. Okay, there's no need to swim the English Channel, but people do it because they want to know that they can, right? There's a mountain. Yeah, you don't need to climb a mountain, but people do it all the time. You don't need to jump out of an airplane, but people do it all the time. And part of a large chunk of our society is like, hell no, like me. I ain't climbing a mountain for no reason by hand with no ropes. F that, right? But we look at those people like, damn, you're a badass, right? It's and but could a society get to the point where like those you don't want those kind of people in your society? Or maybe we choose to have those people in our society because we need to sacrifice those people to move forward, right? We accept the fact that 10% of our population is going to die over of basically dumb shit because they eschew the technology and the benefits of our society to push our society further, like astronauts going to Mars, right? Some of those astronauts are going to die. That's a given. But what if we had a perfect way to get to Mars? Do you still want our astronauts to die? Nobody wants them to die. I'm going to go to TA, and then I'm going to go to the rest of you guys. Thomas Anderson says it reminds me of the concern of post scarcity society, where every need is solved, so there are no longer needs for struggle. So we make fake struggle in things like video games. Yeah, there is the idea of doing like fake struggle with like virtual reality or something. But is it what how much fidelity would you need if people understand that they're just going to be plugged into a machine, right? Then they're just going to go, well, it's fake anyway, so why? I mean, it's not like I'm really struggling, unless those video games, if you want to, I'll call it virtual reality, so it's less gamey. Can you really die in them? Will we create virtual realities where, you know what, we're going to plug you in for 36 hours, and if you die in it, you just die? Sorry. you know um let's see. Cam says, sorry, getting into the chat here. Cam says, I feel like the golden people in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 were great examples of a post-scarcity society trying to deal with one small real-world challenge. They're designed by birth. Oops, here we go. I can't read it. They're designed by, yes, and they're designed by birth too. Yeah, they are like arrogant, but a little bit idiotic, right? Because they've kind of eliminated all the problems in their society, and they look down on everybody else. But at the same time, they really can't deal with the reality given to them. Yeah, I agree with you. Vampanoid says you'd have a lot of humanities as in artists and creatives. A lot of people would sacrifice that part of them to pay the bills. Oh hell yeah! There's a lot of I think, like you said, the humanities and the arts would probably skyrocket if you could eliminate the need to work to engage in it. What's the idea? Starving artists, right? Some would say the idea of being a starving artist is the crucible of becoming a great artist in the first place. Uh, I don't I don't have I'm an armchair dude. I don't know if that's true, but yeah, Michael's like there are people like that now. Oh man, try to keep up here. For RPG, Thomas Anderson says, for RPG purposes, I could see a society that is struck with a villain that is a villain because they see people suffering mental illness of being needed, so they become the problem for others to solve. Ooh, what a great villain! Like almost like a martyr villain who's like, I'm going to make people suffer not because I'm evil, but because they need a thing to suffer from. That's the basis of the Watchmen series. Ozymandias or Ozymandias, if you want to pronounce it that way. Ozymandias. Yep, I'm a create a fake villain to unite the world into peace. Even though I might murder a couple million people in New York City, but whatever, or whatever. I mean, that's just a small price to pay. Yeah, I'll be the villain, but I mean, humanity's got to move on. Yep. Yeah. Mike Gould's like, I have a hard time buying into a fiction here. The premise is everything has been solved, honestly. Let's go on to the second comment. Humanity has proven one thing: when no struggle exists, someone will invent one. Now, see, that's the other thing too, where we might be convinced we don't have combining that comment. On one hand, we might be convinced there is no struggle when there really is one. A matter of fact, we're kind of doing that today, right? Like, how many people were, honestly, how many people today are like, racism doesn't exist? And then I raise my hand and I go, so let me give you two situations. Um, I'm on the ground and someone Caucasian has a gun pointed at me, or a Caucasian person's on the ground and I have a gun pointed at them. What percentage chance do you have that a police officer that arrives will vacillate past the 50% mark that one of us is going to be shot and or killed, or at least apprehended, right? Until that's an exact 50-50, yeah, we got a little bit of a problem, right? You get a car stop, everyone's like, oh, well, I don't understand why you weren't just polite. And I'm thinking, how many people will just, who aren't black or brown, jump out their car and start screaming at the cop like, I pay your bills and you're a civil servant? I can't get away with that bullshit, right? But there are people who might be like, nah, we don't have any struggles. And like Mike Gould said, yeah, we're going to make our own struggles, unconsciously or not. So I kind of agree with that one. What would they be in a utopia? Ooh, maybe there might be a faction that comes out and is like, you know what, we need to become terrorists. We need to become rebels without a cause. We need to become terrorists for no other reason but to get humanity to push themselves further, and we're going to sacrifice ourselves by, randomly murdering people, which is weird, but it could be something. Oh man. uh yeah, I know you guys are moving on it with this. I'll get back in the chat. Anyway, Thomas Anderson says, if you know someone who has one, you'll have your life infected with the ownership of one from their giving you one and you wanting one to make virtually anything. Um, I'm confused. I probably missed one of your comments. Oh, you were talking shit. I read a comment you were responding to Mike. Yeah, that's hard. Oh man. Sorry about that. Mike Gould says, perspective is king. The perspective that one thing or another is or is not a problem spawns the problem itself. Yeah. What is it? The first rule of solving a problem is knowing you have one, right? Right. Now, the dark side of that is knowing you have a problem and accepting the ramifications of the problem, knowing that you're not going to solve it. My example would be, I'm trying to think. Okay, there's a planet that's irradiated, and anyone that goes to that planet is probably going to die from radiation, poison atmosphere, gravity fluctuations, solar flares, etc. Going there is hyper dangerous. Oh, by the way, we're going to send people there anyway, right? We know they're going to die. But what if, as a society, we don't just send people there? We force people to go there because we need a percentage of those people to figure out a way to survive, knowing that we're going to sacrifice people to get there. And that is kind of the thing. It's the captain going down with the ship. It's the MMA fighters that or what is traumatic brain injury, TBA, traumatic brain TBIs, I'm sorry, traumatic brain injuries from sporting events and things like that. It's Olympic sports and steroids, those kind of things. Yeah, you're trying to eradicate it, but should you? Maybe people want to sacrifice their body to achieve a goal. There are some people who are like, why are we testing for steroids in sports anyway? Maybe we should just let those people do it to become the best that they can be for through physical and scientific methods. Maybe we should let them cheat so that we can learn from the cheating to make ourselves better. It's kind of weird, but that's what an ultimate would be. Yep. Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, I'm trying to you guys know me every day Monday through Friday I'm reading the chat and having a conversation at the same time. So sometimes I'm in the middle of a conversation. You guys are in the corner drinking your drinks and stuff. So apologize for that. Um oh man. Yep. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, you guys talk about being blend. Yep, 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 yep. Being a blended person. I've seen this myself. Yeah, I think it's a lot more to do with geographic location, though. Sadly, yep. I'm old enough to remember the slur half breed because of my Cherokee ancestry. Yep, yep. There's still people who have. Oh my God, there's still people who are like that. I'll give you a very. I'll say a very a most recent thing is happening that's completely idiotic. Um, Asian hate, Asian hate crimes here, especially here in the states and around the world. What's that about? As if, as if to prove to ourselves the most childish, basic, animalistic thought that we have to hate on people who literally have zero to do with a thing, even if you believe the Chinese government created a disease, even if you're that much of a conspiracy theorist, common sense tells you that people of Asian descent have zero to do with that. And yet here you are hating on these people. Like you're literally expending energy to create violence against people who don't deserve it. That's it. This is exactly what I'm talking about. We as animals want to know that we're better than the other animals because we want to survive higher on the food chain. And in order to survive out in the wild of whether we live in big cities or not, the bigger tiger wants to know that they're bigger than the smaller tiger. They want to know that we can get more resources. And in order to do that, somebody's got to be at the bottom. And we have accepted that into a society. But when technology makes us all, the more equal technology makes us, the more we're going to try to come up with ways to differentiate ourselves. And one of those ways might literally be going back to basics. Yeah. Yeah, Rickard's like last 15-minute hype. Yeah, there you go. Oh, hells yes. Thomas Anderson says, honestly, too, when it comes to racism, the unspoken thoughts are more of a problem than the spoken ones, like not knowing there is a hornet in the room and sitting on it. Yep. Yeah, yeah. People fail to realize that when you go get an auto loan, you need to get a mortgage, you walk into a store, you want, like right now, I'm trying to get, um, I need my deck and fence stained, and I don't have enough time to do it myself. And my wife and I have been reaching out to local people here and there to, do that, like cut our grass, service people. And for some reason, despite the fact that I'm willing to pay a pretty good amount of money, I can't find anybody. Uh, I don't know why that is. And yeah, yeah. Mike Gould says my lineage is. Oh, sorry. There we go. It says my lineage is white, native, and black. Nova Scotia was a working melting pot until the Acadian expulsion in 1755. Where do you think Cajuns came from? Yep, Acacia, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. There is a sweet video by. Oh my God, I got There's a gentleman from Canada that is a linguist, and he goes through North American accents, Canadian and American accents, and as he's talking from every region, they're showing you a map. He's speaking in every single dialect and telling you their origins. It's so cool. I wish I could just bring it up and play it for you, but I'll get dinged for it. But yeah, 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 yeah. You're absolutely right. There are there's a strange bit of our culture and society that we've embraced to put where we need to make sure that there are both people below us, and then there's the other part where we need to know that there's a place for us to rise to, because even today we're all sitting here, and I'm assuming that all of us are not ultra rich, right? But we know that even amongst the top 1% of billionaires, multi-billionaires in the world, they're still fighting with each other. They're still trying to see who's the better. And now, how they measure that is it in money? Is it in land ownership? Is it in who's the most famous? Who's got the tallest, most statuesque arm candy? Is it like they're still even people in the 1% are still battling? Is it a battle of who can do the most? Who can engage in the most deviant, illegal activities and not get caught? Who's the, who? Is it? Uh, can I get an island filled with underage girls and use them as a child slavery? Like, I mean, even people that there's just such a weird thing that we do as a culture. But imagine like actually having it written down. That'd be weird. My Michael's like, DBJ, if I lived nearby, I'd stay in your deck for the price of a beer and pizza. Well, shit, I'm willing to spend a whole hell of a lot more than that to get it done. I'm willing to put a grand or more down, and nobody's willing to do it. And the part of me in the back of my mind, just a little bit, is wondering like, are you are the people who I've reached out to, and I'm not talking like one or two people. I'm talking about like contractors that haven't gotten back with me. Are they looking at me like, oh, that dude ain't going to pay me? Right? Just appearance. Just they don't know who I am, what I'm about. I go to them and say, I need this work done. Is there a way? Could you give me a quote? Could you come over and take a look? And they write down their notes and don't say shit back. And I'm like thinking, do they know me? Like, are they making an assumption about me? Oh, am I a lesser person that they don't need my money? I'm just like, it's weird. Yeah. Yeah. Because like, at least have them give a few sessions. Yep. Up on the deck. I got to, there's a deck around a pool. We got to pull it back and stuff like that. I can't wait till it gets warm enough to use it. But yeah. Oh, man. Uh, yeah. TA says a lot of reason to be tribalistic and treat anyone as an other. Yeah. Yeah. We do that. Yeah. Oh, let me get back to your first comment, which was that is a small part of reasoning for outsourcing, for open sourcing, and spreading my replicator tech when done to give people less reasons to fight over things and stop to think long enough to eliminate uh, tribalistic behaviors, essentially. And I think I agree. Um, but there's even part of our society that is afraid of the equalization of that, right? How many third world countries have our governments prefer to abuse rather than treat equally? You know? Yeah. 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 Dead man's like Temple has similar problems. Oh man. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they can't find people to do shit. Damn. Thomas Anderson says because the very real invisible rope around others' necks as money is sort of a network of ropes tied to wrists and necks. Yep, that we cannot see, nor the throats of those our wrists are tied to. Ooh, I like the visual of that. I feel like I'm in a job that's got like golden handcuffs. I'm kind of trapped in it. I mean, I get paid pretty. I'm not suffering at all. I got a pretty good lifestyle, but the hours. I wish I could donate more time to the thing that I love, gaming and stuff. But I work too many hours to do that. Cam's like, just gonna say one word, the far. Um, Vampanoy says, anti-Asian crime has risen over 1,000% here in New York City since last year. As an Asian nurse, I'm kind of baffled at how the same people who clapped for us and called us heroes last year now perpetuate hate against my community. Yep, disappointed but not surprised. It's a oh my god, it's like I want to scream and yell and like you said, disappointed but not surprised. It's so childlike in its brutality. You know how children will like scream at their parents and say I hate you, or like destroy a toy because it just doesn't work or something. And on one hand, that base party wants to backslap the kid like you dumb mother, and then you go, I can't even God, I can't even hate. You know, it's the puppy that pees on the carpet, and it's like, oh my God. And but we shouldn't be thinking of other grown folks as um uneducated, mindless children. But why? Like, why would you? I, someone. The reason I brought up the Asian hate thing is because at work we were talking or something, and somebody mentioned an offhanded comment that I didn't like, and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And they were like, "Well, I don't understand it." And I said, "I don't even have I don't even have time to hate somebody. Like, my life is of such a level that I don't have space to put hate in it because it takes up too much energy." What the God? Yep. Vampanoid says I have two very sad words. Yeah, institutionalized racism. But yes, but it doesn't. Okay, stereotypes be, and hate begins because of an act somewhat unreasonably blamed for a large group of people because a small group has done something, right? This is just like this is just people who are just like, I need something to hate, and I'm not exactly. We haven't. We've gone through the black and brown ladder of individuals, so now we need to start recycling back again. I mean, I mean, what is that? What kind of bullshit is that? God, yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Yeah. That's the worst part too. That you're not surprised. That's how people become jaded cynics. Yeah, yeah. Like Michael says, hate begins with ignorance. It's ignorance of the purest kind. It's like, oh, I'm going to hate people who clearly are born here and or migrated here of because of something that they have literally zero to do with, like nothing to do with, like not even partial, zero. What? What? Oh my God. Oh man. Michael says, here in Nova Scotia, we're struggling to get a certain segment of the population to wear a goddamn mask. Guess who that is? Yeah. Yeah. Never mind that doctors and nurses have been wearing masks for, I don't know. Would it be well over 100 years or more? I would guess to keep them from like coughing and spitting in your open wounds and stuff. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Yep. Oh my God. Anyway, we weren't supposed to go down this point. We weren't supposed to go down this level. I really want to talk about tabletop RPGs, but I guess that's what happens when these are the kind of conversations that I love because I remember having conversations with my mom, and my mom would ask me when I was when it was difficult for me to make a decision, she would she would say to me, it's the 1-5-10 rule. Use the 1-5-10 rule. And essentially it was, well, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what are the ramifications of you doing that thing or making that decision or not making that decision? Is it going to matter a year from now? Then it probably doesn't matter now, right? If it's going to change your life for the better 10 years from now, then do it now. It's if if and when I thought about that, like being a kid and you're running around with a kid and they're like, I want to break some windows in a vacant house, and I'm like, I'm not doing that bullshit. Why? Because I might go to juvie, a year from now, or go to jail, and it's 5 years from now. F that. That's why smart people don't commit crimes because they're like, that's okay. Let's see, what's the cost effect analysis of me committing a crime? Yeah, it ain't worth it. What is it? Oh yeah, my dead man says the massive medical profession is only about 80 years. Okay, about 80 years old. Yep. Washing hands, sanitation. All of that stuff was as a matter of fact, using what soap and water was looked at as every sanitation method has been looked down upon until people realized, over once those people died and sloughed off of society, it was just like, oh yeah, maybe we should be doing that. Yeah. Oh man. The TA says that is the problem with discussing a society that has reached utopia and consider what problems that might cause to arise. Yeah, that is the problem. But I love the conversations because it it brings to light for us that if we are unable to look at ourselves in a rational manner, our mistakes in a rational manner, our behaviors in a rational manner, that some of the things we hold dear to us today might not matter in the future, might not matter at all in the slightest bit. You know, we talk about transhumanism and like, oh, we're going to download our brains, and you're like, well, you do realize the minute we have brain downloading, literally, it it will become the literal removal of everything that we hold dear to us as a thing to separate us from one level to another. Um, you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Rickard says I will say that as a non-white American, some of this is really eye opening to me because a lot of this stuff is never talked about. Like the big racism things with violence are talked about, but the day to day stuff just doesn't come up. And it's kind of referred to as like microaggressions. So the day to day stuff for me would be like going into a store and being followed, or um, like right now, trying to get a contractor to do work at my house, and maybe paranoid, maybe there's a little bit of paranoia on my end, but like, is someone refusing to do work for me because they're busy, or are they refusing to do work for me because they think something else? Right now, it's not necessarily true, but there is a little bit of like, yeah, like Rickard says, it's a slow death by a thousand cuts. Yeah, it's 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 being placed at a table in a certain place in a restaurant. It is driving down the road and being followed by a police officer, but you're not sure why. Or it's the being pulled over, and the difference between a police officer just going, hey, I saw you were doing something, giving you a warning, and leaning against your window, or them thumbing the safety off of the tab on their pistol, right? Like, there's a difference between one or the other. And what happens is the the most people think racism is overt, and if they aren't overt, they aren't the ones perpetuating it. But the problem is when they see other people acting that way and do nothing, they are allowing those kind of thoughts to perpetuate. And sometimes people allow those thoughts to perpetuate be out of tribalism, right? Like, if there's five people who, if you know you want a job and there's five other people who are qualified, and you're like, damn, I need to get this job, and I'm just gonna, okay, I have to do black and white because I was trying to think of some other racial dynamics, but I can't think of any. So if you're Caucasian in this country and there's five people for the job, you're one, there's four more, then you're like, okay, I only need to go against those. But if other people are given equal playing fields, your competition becomes 15, 20, 30, 40 other people. You don't want that. And subconsciously, maybe people are just allowing those ignorances to exist to keep the competition level down. And it's not right, but it is a survival mechanism where people go, well, I'm not racist, but I'll benefit from it. They may not say that out loud. Maybe some people do say that out loud. This was a real conversation I had in the backyard of somebody who had a big house. They're on my wife's side. She's Caucasian. They're on the wife's side, and they're literally in the backyard smoking weed. Adults giving weed to kids, smoking weed, bitching about black kids on the corner doing the exact same thing. And I was like, well, wait a minute, you here you are. I mean, you're literally engaging in what's technically an illegal activity at your home, complaining about other people who don't have a house like you doing the exact same thing, right? Yeah. Oh man. Cameron's like, I still don't receive half of what y'all get. That's the twice for half thing. That's Yep, yep, yep. Yep. Michaels has been there. Got pulled over for made up reasons 3 times in 1 year. One where the cop had his hand on his weapon because he didn't like how I crossed the parking lot. Yeah, yeah, yep. And then it's the whole. And then you get into the whole like, you know, be respectful. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe it's kind of your fault. And I'm going, well, yeah, but I don't know. It's just it's a thing, dude. It's a thing. Yeah. Oh man. Mm-mm-mm. Oh man, we will have to get out of here. We went down a deeper dark path. I didn't mean to do. I think I triggered you guys, and I didn't mean to do that. I really did not mean to do that at all. But Cameron's like, yeah, I'm a white guy in the day to day shit for non-white people's bullshit. I've been told I'm straight passing, but everyone that talks to me in person knows I'm not straight. I still don't receive half of what y'all get. Yeah, see, because we're tribalists, right? It's like everybody. Oh, what is it? The other half of um, shit. What's the term for it? Um, I guess you could call it like victim superiority is another thing too. Like I get treated worse than you are. So then there's also that like dichotomy where it's like oh, you think you got it bad, I've got it worse. So and it's like no, that's like defending. Oh my god, that's like two kids being abused by their parents and one kid going, well, at least you don't get abused as much as my parent abuses me. And you're like, what? Yeah, persecution complex, there it is, the Tesla. Yeah, you're just like, wait, okay, stop it. The whole point is it's not supposed to happen that way. You're not supposed to go. It's not like pulling up war wounds and stuff, but big circle around, right? Struggle culture. Like, I'm struggling more than you, I'm suffering more than you, we need to do this thing. And we have this addiction to it. But I'm imagining, because we are a tabletop role play thing, I'm just imagining, like, imagine if there were rules to this. Like, you know what, our utopia, we need a space in our utopia to hate, to fight, to eliminate, to suffer through, to feel the pain, to get the anguish. I mean, it's like we know in the media where you have rich kids, rich famous nobles, royalty kids, where on one hand those kids have everything. They're rich. Their parents have everything. They're probably super rich. And then at the same time, you're like, well, wait a minute. If I was rich, I would want to give everything to my kids too, right? But on the other hand, it's like, well, are you a bad parent if you're a billionaire for making your kids work and struggle, or are you a bad parent for giving them everything? And yes, I know there's a middle ground in there somewhere, but there is this mentality in our heads like, no, you're an effed up individual if you take away everyone's struggles, because now they won't know what the struggle is. But then you're also an effed up individual for making people struggle when you have everything, you know? And it's just weird. Oh man. Michael's like, oof, oof, oof. I'm the only one in my family with white skin. Everyone else is clearly of native descent, and yet, so I'm white passing. Yeah, just because you're born that way. But it's like the cops can smell my I'm going to mispronounce this, and I hate to brutalize it. Ma, Mackay blood. My fuck. I hate pronounce. I'm so sorry for mispronouncing it. I'm terrible at that. But I want to look that up. I want to look that up. Um. Uh. Yeah. Yeah. Cameron says, Thomas, I lived in rural Kansas for 2 years when I was a kid. One Mexican family had to move because they were being harassed. Also, I live in suburbia, and every black pedestrian looks scared while walking. Yeah, yeah, that's a thing. And it's weird. It's like it's pronounced Mig Mackay, or I'm not sure where the proper I'm putting the wrong emphasis on the improper syllable. And sure, I'm doing that, but yeah. Let me put this up there. Rickard's like, to be fair, DBJ, you have trouble pronouncing things in English at times. Yeah, it is. It is a hodgepodge, to be honest with you. So it's not all my fault. Maybe it's my American educational system. Mackie. Oh, Mackie, not Mackay. Ah, okay, Mig Mackie. Okay, or it's Mig Mackie. I'm just going to keep brutalized. It's Mig Mackie. Or I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. Yep. Yeah. Dude, we've gone. I mean, it's a shame that common sense is neither common nor does it make any sense. And the reason why I love role playing games and especially like science fiction and more especially getting a little more niche transhumanist science fiction is because the very things we're talking about right now have the potential to completely disappear. Yeah. Yeah. Like Michael's like, you got there eventually. Yeah. Oh man. But it's like the things that we argue over and scream about and literally commit murder over are the things that one day are going to be meaningless. I would love to have a society much like much like the Federation in Star Trek, where they've solved all their problems. They have a cashless society and stuff. I would love that, but unfortunately, haven't gotten there yet. But playing in the tabletop gaming world, we've pretty much gotten to the point where we're like, yeah, there even in a utopia, there's still going to be problems, and there's still going to be gunfights and run and gun and battles and things like that over even even seemingly unreasonably perceived differences between people and such. So, yeah, so there's always going to be somebody to fight and all that kind of stuff here. Oh man, Rickard says we have a cashless society here, not solve the no money society though. Yeah, there's no such thing as right. It's cash. Yes. There's a complete difference between cashless and no money, right? And even if you have a society that doesn't have money, we're still gonna have an economy of some sort. That economy might be like reputation. It might be merit based. It might be geographically based. It might be yeah, yeah, like, oh yeah. Rickard says, not joking. Some stores here don't take cash. As a matter of fact, we even have laws that are out now to protect the people who use cash, because here in the States, there's some people who can't go cashless because they get paid in cash and they can't buy things from places that don't take cash, physical money, so paper and coin. So, and they're thinking it's an economic. Some people are claiming that it's economic, like a um, disparity, because you stores that open up that are cashless they can't go to, which means that in some ways it's like a civil rights thing kind of, and it's weird. And see, again, that's like another weirdism. Like, well, on one hand, yeah, I get it, but then on the other hand, I'm like, oh, whoa, there are some people that don't have bank accounts and can't operate that way. What do you do? And I personally like the struggle. Some people just take it too far, you know. Um, yeah, there are people. Asian hate is just another cycle of trying to find somebody to push down below them, and people are just doing it. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, Rickard. To me, a job that pays in cash sounds shady as f because culture difference. Oh no! You don't. No, it's like that here too. It's called being paid under the table. Like there's something a little bit shady about what's going on sometimes. Now, other times though, sometimes you just need to get by. And we are a hustle society, and sometimes you just need to hustle, cutting grass, painting things, basically outside the prove your prove your income tax society that we have here, because we've got a lot of taxes all over the place. So there is that too. Damn, this last comment here. A good struggle is to start out fresh in a Minecraft server, or quitting because it's too easy because they made you a mod without asking, ruining the fun off of the grid. Oh man, TA. Oh man. Mm-mm. Yeah, and like Cam says, and tips. People who get tips tend to live on them. Yeah, and we support we pay the workers in restaurants, so restaurants don't have to. That's what we do. Oh wow, what is this? Restream says, "Congratulations, you've received 100 messages today with Restream chat." Ooh, maybe I should maybe I should get you guys triggered more often. What's something to get somebody triggered? Star Wars. Let's talk about Star Wars. I apologize, guys. I really didn't mean to go. I honestly did. I love the conversation, but I didn't mean to go down this life sucks because people go out there and they hate on all of us for supposed reasons and stuff is bullshit. But I didn't really mean to go down that way. But that being said, I do appreciate you guys being here. I love it. Glad you guys could be. Thank you so much. I am of course not going to. I have no idea. I think maybe Cam slammed his face on the keyboard, but that's going to be the last comment that's going to take us out, guys. Got to head off to work. Uh, I love you guys. It's been May the 4th, Return of the 5th, all that kind of stuff. So maybe we should have talked about that instead. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. Next week we're going to talk about, of all things, a movie that kind of hit me hard, hit me in the feels, and had me thinking more than I should have about it, which I love. And that is the movie called Nomadland. And give you guys yeah, give you guys a little time to maybe even check that movie out if it's available. If not, I'm not going to give any spoilers. The premise of the movie is the spoilers. It's just following the pathway. It's like the Titanic. You know what happens to the Titanic? The boat sank. But following the story is the choice thing. So everybody take care. Vampanoid, take care. Please, out there, for everybody who's seen this chat, maybe learn something from it in your own personal lives or whatever, that all of us, I am not the arbiter of what's good or not. Listen to the other people here, read the chat, listen to the things that they have to say. They are speaking from their hearts. Take care of the people around you, and life, love, and everything. So guys, like Rickard said, best review of Titanic ever. The boat sank. DBJ. Man, one line reviews for movies. Love it. So guys, everyone have a great one. Vampanoid, thank you so much. By the way, everybody, I'll see you later. See you first thing Monday morning. Love you. Oh man. TA, sorry about it. TA says, don't work too hard and keep dreaming up interesting things. Yeah, thanks, guys. It you guys have my mind going, which I love, but it's just, oh my god, it's just making me, it it pulls at my heartstrings, and it makes me feel good. It just really makes me really good. Oh, ooh, shit. No problem there, Cam. Thanks for good ones. And Vampanoy says, RPG games are a great place to deal with these issues. Fantasy may not be real, but there is truth in it. Hell's yes. Hell's yes. Even if it means open up a can of whoop ass and beating somebody to a pulp. Every once in a while in our fantasy gaming, our imagination, sometimes we need to let it out. And if this is a good way to let it out, or at least find a safe space for us, that's where it's all at. Thank you, Mr. Gould. Love you too. Let me give some hugs. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Love you guys, man. Have a great one. I will see you later. Bye.